Manchester United is about to make their best signing ever, and it is not even a player, but a mastermind that has taken a team from a 20-year stagnation to glory. His name is Ruben Amorim, and he is the new champion who would take Manchester United to glory. With a proven track record of revitalizing clubs, can he take United back to glory? Or will he stumble as Ten Hag did? Well, watch to the end to find out. But let's get to know the man. This guy isn't just another manager. Ruben Amorim is the coach who comes in and shakes things up. He's that guy who, just a few years back, no one outside of Portugal knew much about. Then, almost out of nowhere, he pulled off one of the biggest surprise stories in European football. Amorim was this young coach who barely even had a resume when he took charge of Sporting Lisbon. We're talking about a club that hadn't won a league title in 19 years. 19 years of just hoping, almost giving up. But then Amorim steps in, and just like that, within a season, they're crowned champions. This wasn't some fluke either. This squad was relentless, and they played like they had something to prove. He's the guy who made that happen. And the best part? He wasn't even that experienced as a manager. Amorim didn't come with decades of coaching under his belt. He came with new ideas, intense drive, and this fresh style different from what we usually see in Europe. He had a vision, and he didn't care what others thought. And because of that, he's quickly become the guy to watch in European football. And, yeah, it's this exact fearlessness that got Manchester United's attention. Now, United bringing in a manager like Amorim is big, because let's face it, Old Trafford's seen some tough times lately. It's a club desperate to recapture its glory, to find someone willing to take risks and bring something new, and Amorim might be just the person to do that. His coaching style is like a breath of fresh air, and he's known for getting the absolute best out of his players, especially the younger ones. The Premier League had been dominated by managers like Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp, who've each brought their unique flair and identity to their teams. But Amorim, he's not looking to follow in anyone's footsteps. Instead, he's bringing a style all his own, something the Premier League hasn't seen before. So yeah, get ready to hear a lot about Ruben Amorim this season, not just from United fans, but from anyone who loves the game. Because if his past achievements are any sign, the Premier League should be a bit nervous. Manchester United has just made a bold move, and with Ruben Amorim at the helm, they're aiming for nothing short of a revolution. Everyone keeps saying he might fail just like Ten Hag, but this is wrong. You see, when we look at why Erik Ten Hag didn't succeed at Manchester United, it wasn't just a case of bad luck or a couple of unfortunate injuries. It was about a mismatch in how the team functioned, or rather, didn't function. Ten Hag came in with high hopes and a clear vision, wanting to create a fluid, aggressive style of play. But instead, he ended up with a group that lacked a real, consistent identity. His setup became more of a patchwork than a solid tactical plan, and when players couldn't keep up with the high-paced system he envisioned, cracks started to show. The tactical approach Ten Hag brought from Ajax wasn't working with this squad. At Ajax, he had players who understood the intense pressing and high defensive line. But at United, you had players like Casemiro, a fantastic defensive player, but one who's better positioned than chasing down counters, paired with players like Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans, who aren't exactly known for their speed. This meant they ended up playing deeper than intended, leaving huge gaps in the midfield, which the opposition exploited repeatedly. Then there's the case of the high turnovers Ten Hag wanted. United was good at pressing in theory, creating turnovers up the pitch, but they struggled to convert these into goals. A big problem when your game plan relies on capitalizing on mistakes from the opposition. The goals didn't come because there wasn't enough coordination up front, leaving players like Rashford and Antony isolated without proper support or clear instructions on how to transition into scoring opportunities. Now, this is where Ruben Amorim's approach at Sporting gives us reason to believe he won't fall into the same traps. Unlike Ten Hag, Amorim has developed a reputation for being adaptive, yet firm in his style. He knows what kind of players work in his system, and he doesn't need to adjust his tactics just to fit big names. That's crucial because he's a manager who believes in his setup and gets players who fit into it rather than trying to mould an existing squad that might not suit his style. Amorim won't compromise on his principles. Where Ten Hag tried to adjust and fit players in, Amorim made it clear that if a player doesn't work in his system, they won't play. But what is his system? Ruben Amorim's tactical setup at Sporting is like watching a symphony of football chaos. And I mean that in the best possible way. Sporting has been on fire, scoring for fun, and it's all down to Amorim's insanely creative system. Amorim doesn't just throw a bunch of players forward. Oh no, he's crafted this system where 5, sometimes even 6 players are constantly threatening the defensive line. They're not just waiting around either. They're rotating positions, overlapping and combining with such fluidity that defenders are left guessing. Do you think you've marked your man? Suddenly he's switched places with someone else and boom, another Sporting player is through on goal. The brilliance lies in the way Sporting's structure adapts as they move up the pitch. Yeah, they might start out in a 3-4-3 on paper, but once the game's in full flow, that formation's shifting constantly. Sometimes they look like a back 5 with a single centre-back stepping into midfield, and at other times they stretch to open up the field, forcing defenders out of position. It's like tactical cat and mouse, and Sporting is winning every time. Now here's where it gets super interesting. Sporting creates these 2 vertical lines down the half spaces, those tricky areas between the centre and wing, so the opposition either has to press them and risk leaving space out wide, or sit back and watch Sporting slowly eat up the field. Amorim is so obsessed with these half spaces that he's got his players constantly creating triangles and diamond shapes to find the perfect pass into the central striker, Juarez, who by the way is just racking up goals like it's nothing. And get this, they even have their defenders way up in the opposition half. It's risky, but with their rotations and constant movement, they're finding spaces for cutbacks and through balls that lead to tap-ins left and right. This is why they're scoring 3 goals a game. It's an overload of options, all synchronized beautifully. Sporting's playing like a team that can't be figured out because the system is all about freedom within structure. And, let's be real, that makes them an absolute nightmare to play against. Amorim coming to Manchester means one thing: we are about to play the Wenger style once again, but this time with more attacking prowess. But how would Amorim set this Manchester United team? Starting in goal, it's got to be Andre Onana, right? I mean, Amorim would love having an elite ball-playing goalkeeper. He's the kind of keeper who's not just there to stop shots. He can help build the play from the back, which is super important in Amorim's system. Now moving to the back 3, it gets a bit trickier here. Amorim loves his wide centre-backs, so we've got to get this right. We'll start with Lisandro Martinez on the left. He's perfect for Amorim's style, bringing that technical ability and composure under pressure. On the right, let's slot in Leny Yoro. He's young, energetic, and can carry the ball forward, which is exactly what we need. Another player that Amorim would love is Maguire, because of his wonderful passing ability. And right in the centre, we'll have Matthijs de Ligt, kind of holding things down between the two. It's a solid trio, right? In the midfield, Amorim likes a ball-winning midfielder to control the game, and Ugarte is built for that role. He's going to break up play and protect that back 3. Next to him, we'll need a connecting player, someone who can link defense to attack. I see Kobbie Mainoo fitting in here nicely. He has the vision and passing ability to make things tick. Of course, Christian Eriksen could also do this job. Given his experience, I also think that Bruno Fernandes could sometimes be used in this role. Then in the attack, Amorim loves a channel striker, and guess who fits that bill perfectly? Rasmus Højlund. He's been phenomenal under Amorim at Sporting, and with the space created in those channels, he'll thrive. We could be looking at a serious threat up top. Xerxes sometimes could be used in this position, especially when the other team is pressing the team heavily. He might not be a channel striker, but he could be developed into one. Here where it gets a bit tricky, those wide players. Amorim has used all kinds of players in his wing-back positions. We could see someone like Dalot on the right, or maybe even Mazraoui, who's got the attacking flair. And what about Amad Diallo? He could surprise us by filling that role on the right, just like the wingers he's used in the past. But on the left, we've got options. If Luke Shaw can stay fit, and that's a big if, he could do wonders there. But if not, could we see Anthony or even Alejandro Garnacho dashing up and down that left flank? I love the idea of Garnacho bringing his youthful energy. He works hard and could contribute to defence and attack. For those inside forward positions, Amad looks like the most natural fit on the right. But we know Amorim will want to find a way to get Bruno Fernandes into the mix. He could rotate between midfield and attack, keeping things dynamic. And let's not forget Mason Mount. He could slot in there too. Now, Marcus Rashford would benefit from playing behind some Højlund, as he can make an opposite run into channels that have been vacated by Højlund. Overall, it seems like Ineos had a plan all along, especially when signing the centre-backs, and we can't wait to see how it unfolds in Manchester United. But my biggest fear for this setup is that it leaves a lot of space on the wings, and that could be a problem, especially in the Premier League. Think about it. Teams can just sit back and wait for their moment to pounce. We saw this happen when Atlanta caught United off guard. They exploited those gaps on the flanks, and it was a tactical masterclass in counter-attacking football. Now, can we afford to let that happen again, especially with the firepower in our league? I mean, look at players like Mohamed Salah, Heung-min Son, Jeremy Doku and Bukayo Saka. These guys are lethal. If they get a sniff of those spaces, they'll be in on goal before you can say counter-attack. It's not just about keeping possession, it's about being smart defensively too. And if we leave those wings exposed, we could be in serious trouble. So, how does Amorim address this? He's going to need to find a balance between attacking flair and defensive solidity. Maybe that means asking our wing-backs to tuck in more, or getting those midfielders to track back and cover those areas. If we don't, we could be in for a rough ride against some of the top talent in the league. What do you guys think? Can Amorim find a way to tighten things up and take Manchester United to the top? Or will United get picked apart like we saw under Ten Hag? Well, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching this video. You can check out our channel to watch more of our videos.